Welcome to a show about learning technologies so powerful they transcend the boundaries of reality itself. I'm your host, Pinky Gonzalez, and this is New School VR. Welcome back, everybody. This is Pinky Gonzalez, and joining us on the New School VR podcast today is Baptiste Greve.
Hey, Pinky.
You're calling today from Paris.
Exactly.
This has truly accidentally become a very international show. Thank you for making the time. So what time is it where you're at today?
6 p.m. in Paris.
6 p.m. It's just after 9 a.m. Here in Portland, Oregon. So we're worldwide. So we're going to talk about Unimersiv today. I'm so excited about this one because it's one of those platforms that not only provides content in and of itself, but it is opening itself up to become a platform for other content producers to be able to use, which I think is a really important recipe in where we're at with educational VR today. Tell us about Unimersiv. What is it and how does it work?
Yeah, sure. So basically, to give you a quick story about Unimersiv, so we started 1 year and a half ago, so it was around February, March 2015. And back then, Unimersiv, the idea was to make Unimersiv, a simple web-based platform for educational VR experiences, So we were talking with developers around the world, and we were helping them to upload their VR educational content on Unimersiv, and then we had users who signed up to get access to the VR educational content that was uploaded by other developers. So it started as a simple web platform, and then over the month, so it was working well. We had thousands of users that signed up, and it was still the DK2 time, so there wasn't that many VR headsets available worldwide. So, but still, we managed to have a lot of users who signed up to get access to this educational content. And then over the month, we realized that Oculus was working on their app store, Steam too. So we thought that if we wanted to grow as a bigger company, maybe the best strategy was not to focus on like building a competitive app store to those big players, but maybe to partner with them and see how we could make Unimersiv a VR-based platform instead of a web-based platform. So an app that we could share on the Oculus Store, maybe on Steam VR, and on other big players that would help us target and reach more people. So basically, almost a year ago, we decided to pivot toward this VR-based app that is available today. So right now, Unimersiv is it's an app that you can download on the Oculus Store for the Samsung Gear VR and for the Oculus Rift that gives you access to multiple educational experiences that we built ourselves. So that when we pivoted, we decided to focus on building the content, and so now the experiences that are available on the Unimersiv platform are built by us. So if you download the app today, you can have access to some content that will let you explore ancient Rome in virtual reality or the Acropolis of Athens. You can also discover the International Space Station and travel inside the different models. So there are like multiple different educational experiences, and now the goal is to publish some new content every month or every 2 months. And as you say, the goal in the midterm will be to open the platform to other developers so that we can get more people to share some educational content on Unimersiv.
Outstanding. I think you're going to have a lot of interest in that if my intuition is right. You guys just released a new experience, speaking of which, called Rome.
Exactly. Yeah.
What can you tell us about Rome?
Sure. So basically, when we started working on VR and education, one thing that was really fascinating for me was that for the first time, with virtual reality, you can get people to visit places that don't even exist anymore. So being able to travel back in time, that was something that has always been really, really interesting for me. And so Rome, so we built, as I said, the Acropolis, and Rome is the experience that we just released. But basically, the goal is to bring our users back to the ancient Roma, so to Rome as it was 2,000 years ago, so that you can explore the Colosseum and see gladiators fighting. You can learn about the Temple of Venus and the Arch of Constantine. So all of the major monuments that you can see if you visit Rome today, you can, if you use Unimersiv, you can see that as they were 2,000 years ago. And we on top of that, we added 360 pictures of the current state of Rome. So basically for example, you will be inside the Roman Colosseum as it was 2,000 years ago, and a few seconds after, we are going to show you 360 pictures of the current state of the Colosseum, so that you can compare how it has evolved over time, and that's something really, really interesting to see.
Nice, that's fantastic. Is there text that goes with this? Is there an audio narrative, or how do people actually learn what they're seeing?
Yeah, so visual is really, of course, really important for VR experiences. But if you want users to retain as many information as you can, you need to display some text with some keywords during the experience. And also, we always work with professional actors to record a voiceover that will give you, the main elements that you need to know regarding the different monuments. So yeah, if you have the 360 visits, and on top of that, we add a voiceover and some text, or sometimes icons to help the users grasp some more information.
That is great. So Rome is the most recent. Was Acropolis the first one that you guys did?
So basically, when we started, the first version of Unimersiv included 3 experiences. So that was back in May last year. So the third 3 experiences were the outside of the International Space Station experience, then the Stonehenge experience. So Stonehenge is a prehistorical monument in England, and basically in the experience you can see how it is today and how it was 5,000 years ago. So this was one of the first experiences, and then another experience that is different but really interesting too, that we called Anatomy VR. So basically you can learn about the human body, about the muscles, the bones that compose the human body. And so that was one of the first 3 experiences that we published on Unimersiv. And then a month after, we released the Titanic experience that can let you walk on the Titanic as it was before the sinking. You can explore some of the rooms inside the Titanic, and so that was the first premium experience that we published. And then we published the Acropolis and another experience about the ISS that can let you explore the interior of the ISS.
Outstanding. What have you learned so far as you do each one of these new experiences? Was there anything you really wanted to be sure to include with Rome that you hadn't had a chance or hadn't thought to in some of the earlier titles?
So one thing really interesting that we learned is that on Unimersiv, the main content that is available on Unimersiv all of those VR experiences, so like the experience that I just mentioned. But we also published a different kind of content that was simply 2D educational videos that you can watch in a TV room that we created. So basically you can watch some educational videos made by famous YouTubers on a giant screen in a room that we created, and so it's kind of like the Netflix app, except that we partnered exclusively with companies or people that were creating educational videos, and people are spending a lot of time in the Unimersiv app watching those 2D videos, and this is something we tried it because we thought maybe our users will like something like that. But I didn't thought that they would like it that much. They're really spending a lot of time inside this virtual room watching educational videos. So this is definitely something that we learned. I would say is that 2D content in virtual reality is definitely something to explore.
Absolutely. I think it's going to be really fascinating to
Yeah,
see what happens with web VR and this,
exactly. Yeah,
blending of traditional websites and virtual
yeah.
experiences. When somebody is in that space, are you incorporating 360 photos or video as well, or is it purely 2D in that room?
So for now, it's purely 2D. There is like, the user is just sitting on a beautiful couch in his bedroom, and he has access to like this big TV on which he will watch the 2D videos. But there is nothing, no 360 content available yet.
Got it. Got it. That's really cool. So is that what you're referring to on the website, which should have mentioned earlier, unimersiv.com. And as always, we'll link to that at newschoolvr.com. But on your website, you have a section there that says create your own course. How
Uh-huh.
does that program work?
All right, so this is something that we started working on a month ago. So this is basically you have three sections on Unimersiv. You have the experiences, you have the TV room with the 2D videos, and then a month ago we published something that we called the virtual classroom. So the virtual classroom is, so we modeled like a classroom, with like a blackboard and chairs and everything that you can find in the traditional classroom. And basically what we did is that we worked with teachers, real teachers, to create some educational content. So for example, we have a course about business strategy, so we worked with a teacher that created some slides about business strategy, and that recorded his voiceover on top of that. And then what we do is, once we have this content that is being created by the teacher, we animate an avatar, a 3D avatar of a teacher using a software that we created to, make it work with the voice that the teacher recorded. And then we put everything inside the classroom. So basically, our users join the classroom, and they see a teacher in front of them that is moving the hands, moving the lips when he's talking, and that is showing his different slides to teach his course. So what we wanted to see with that is, would users be interested to follow a course like they would do in real life, so being with a teacher in a virtual classroom, in a classroom, but would they be interested in doing that in virtual reality? And so
So
this
great.
is, I think this is something that is really interesting because, so right now it's only like slides, voiceover, and the teacher being animated. But then on top of that, you can add 3D models. So for example, if you want to teach about the universe, we can work with a science teacher, and then what he is talking about a few things that are displayed on the slides, and then at some point he can bring a 3D model of the universe inside the classroom and show to the user how it is composed, how you can make it bigger or make it smaller. So this is really something that might become part of the learning process in the next years, and we just want to see how our users would react to it. So the part on the website is because we are always interested in talking with teachers that would be able to create the kind of course that we would publish in our VR classroom. So we just added a form on the Unimersiv website to let people apply, I would say, to be selected to create a course.
That is great. Are these typically all very academic in nature? Well, you mentioned a business strategy course, which kind of blends the lines a little bit. What are the parameters for
So
what subjects you're
yeah,
looking for?
so we really, no one did that before, so we didn't know what would the users want, what would our users be ready to spend. Like, the course are divided in chapters of 15 minutes, but still, I mean, spending 15 minutes or maybe 30 minutes if you want to listen to two chapters just in a virtual, we wanted to see if they would be interested to spend that amount of time just in a virtual classroom. So we explored really different kind of content. So we have content focused to business, like the business strategy course. We have content focused to entrepreneurs, so how to create, a business plan or follow the business model Canvas system. We have a course about search engine optimization or social media marketing. We have a course to learn how to speak Chinese, so it's an introduction to Chinese in an hour and a half. And now we are working on some new courses for example, to talk about the history of Egypt. So we are really trying different kind of content and to see what our users are the most interested in learning in this virtual classroom.
I love it. Wow, I had no idea
Awesome.
that you were so diverse in range of topics already. That is impressive.
Yeah, I think it's important, to explore. Education is really large, and we want to see. We want to be sure that we are not missing something that our users really want to do. So I think it's really important to explore different kind of topics to see where the user interest is.
Yeah. So are these available as do people purchase each course individually, or is there a broad subscription, or how does one go about taking these classes?
So I'd say that 75% of the courses are free for now, and we have some courses that are paid. It's usually, I'd say, like $2 or $3 a course. We just want maybe like just to test to see if users would be interested to actually pay to get access to this kind of content. But right now, most of the content is free. And if users want to get access to some of the premium courses, they just have to buy one course. There is no like premium subscription or monthly payment. It's just like a simple purchase.
Got it. And you do that from within the virtual space, or do you do that on the website?
Yeah, no, we are using the Oculus in-app system, so you don't have to take off the headset. You just click on a few buttons, and if the users entered their payment system in the Oculus app, they can like purchase the in-app content without having to do anything outside of the air.
Got it. So Oculus is kind of the common denominator between both you're available on the Rift as well as the Gear VR. And for listeners that may not fully understand how the industry is structured, Samsung and Oculus, which is now owned by Facebook, partnered together on the hardware for the Gear VR. So it's kind of this hybrid between using a Samsung phone and an Oculus headset. And those two things come together for this VR thing. So as you guys are developing, I'm always curious to hear about the creation side of these applications. It sounds like there is just a common thread there, a common platform where, taking payments and that kind of stuff is pretty seamless, whether you're doing the mobile experience or the high-end HMD. Have they been working with you guys actively, or is that just sort of an open standard that anybody can go out and use?
So anybody can right now like build an app for the Samsung Gear VR and integrate in-app purchases inside it. We have a chance to have some really good relationship with Oculus. So if we have a question or if we need anything, they usually answer us really really quickly. So that's something really really great for us to have. But yeah, basically you mentioned that we were focusing on the Oculus platform, so the Rift and the Gear VR, and one of the main reason I would say, so we started with the Gear VR because like 9 months ago, the Gear was really like and it still is, if you want to target a large amount of users and still have a great virtual reality experience, the Gear is really perfect for that. Basically the Rift is still a bit focused on gaming, and with the Gear you have a much more diverse audience and a much more diverse content. So for educational content, the Gear VR is really perfect. Now we are also talking with Google to see if it would make sense for us to publish the app on the Daydream headset, because we might see the same kind of behavior from the Gear VR, from the Daydream users than we see on the Gear VR users. But basically, the Samsung, so once you have an app that is built for the Samsung Gear VR, it takes only a few minutes to make it available on the Rift. So that's the main reason why we decided to publish Unimersiv on the Samsung Gear VR and on the Rift.
That makes great sense. They just announced at CES this year that there are now 5 million of the Gear VR headsets in the market.
Yeah.
I'm sure many of those were purchased, and quite a few were probably given away as they try to stimulate interest in the space. Are you finding that the majority of your users are on Gear VR, or what's the balance between?
Oh yeah, it's like 95% from the Gear VR.
Ah, wow. Yeah. That's interesting. Is there a hand control mechanism in the experiences that you guys are putting out there?
What do you mean?
Well, that now that Rift has the touch controllers and that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah. Yeah, no. So, for example, we will integrate the touch are really great. We really love them, and we will integrate them in the anatomy experience. So you will be able to grab a muscle, look at it, with the really close, and see how it is composed, or grab a bone and do the same thing. So it will make a lot of sense to integrate the touch control in the anatomy experience. It won't make that much sense to integrate them, in the Rome VR experience or in the Acropolis experience, for example. But for some of the content that we build, it makes sense to work with the touch controllers. Yeah.
Baptiste, I'm curious. One of the things I love about the era that we're in today, here we are in early 2017, is that all of this hardware is just newly available and people are just beginning to explore it. But you are in a generation even prior to this that was actually developing these things, these platforms and these experiences before all of the hardware came out. What was your inspiration for this? How did you get started in this years ago, as you now have?
Yeah, so when we got started, it was, as I said, it was the DK2 time. So DK2 was still there weren't that many people that were talking about it, and I know that at some point. So one of the first time that I really heard about it was when I saw a video on YouTube of some teenagers playing an horror game on the Oculus Rift DK2, and their reaction was crazy. Like they were crying and screaming everywhere. And when I saw that, I was like, oh, this seems like really interesting. And it wasn't that expensive. The Rift was $350 back then, and it was running on less powerful PC than what is running now. So I bought a laptop. I bought the Rift Online. And I received, but really, like, after seeing this video, it was like enlightening for me. Like, if those kids are reacting this way, this must really be a crazy experience. So I buy the Rift, and I didn't know if I would like to focus on gaming or on education, and I didn't have any experience on 3D, so I knew that I wouldn't be like creating content right now. So, but still, I bought it, and one of the first experience that I tried was Titans of Space. I don't know if you tried it, but it's a space exploration app from Drash VR, and back then it was really like the must-have, and it still kind of is, but it really was the must-have app on the Rift. And so I tried it, and I was like, so basically you're traveling from planets to planets, learning about the solar system with a nice music and some text. And I was like, oh, that really was an incredible experience for me. And I was like, if right now there is this piece of content, like in a few years, maybe there will be like hundreds of different educational experiences. And I want to push that, I really want to, I got really interested into like making VR and education happen. So that's the reason why I started to build this website, because this was something that I was able to do. I wasn't able to build, 3D content as good as what I saw in Titans of Space, but I was able to build a website that would be a listing of the different educational experiences available. So that's the reason why we started this way. And then I spent more time working on 3D, working with 3D artists to create some experiences. And then a year and a half after, I was ready to create an app with some high quality 3D experiences inside them. But yeah, the main part is really like this video on YouTube, and then the Titans of Space experience.
Wow, well, it is impressive, and what I've been so inspired by is just how intuitive these technologies are and how well they do lend themselves to learning.
Yeah, and one thing too that got me thinking about like investing more time and like quitting my job to work full time on VR is that I was the only one in my friend circle or in my family that owned an Oculus Rift. So every time when I had people that came to my house or when I was traveling to see my family, I bring that with me. I bring the Decatur with me, and every time that I was demoing that to people, to my family or to my friends, the reaction was always the same. It was everyone just loved it. And when you see a reaction like that and you see this is not that expensive, if people really love it at some point, they will buy it. And I was like, this will work, and then and Facebook bought it too. So, that there will be like a lot of money that would be, invested to build the ecosystem. And so I just thought you need to work on it. This is really the future. And then, as you said, like 2 years after, like seeing like such a big ecosystem with people, there are developers making like millions of dollars building VR apps, and back then that would have been something like completely crazy to think. But 2 years after, yeah, it exploded.
Yeah, absolutely. What's kind of frustrating having I think they call it an embarrassment of riches or something along those lines. When you're in this industry and you have a chance to play with all of the different tools, high end and entry level and everything in between.
Yeah.
One of the challenges I think we face is just we need more content. There could never be enough, even though there's more now than there ever has been. Yeah. And it's one more reason I'm so impressed by what you guys are doing is that you're not a one trick pony, as they say. You have a lot of different programs available, but also in a lot of different subject areas. I'm really interested to hear about the language room and what you guys are doing with language learning.
Yeah, so the language room is I would call it almost like a failed experiment. So okay. I am really interested in language learning, and I'm convinced that at some point we will invest more time in building a decent VR language learning experience. But basically, what we did with the language room is sometimes we have like 50 or 60 different people that are using the Unimersiv app at the same time, so they are like all using the app at the same time and they cannot interact with each other. And we have people from really all over the world. I think that our users come from 156 countries. So I was like, you have users that come from all over the world. So they are all using the app at the same time, or you always have multiple users spending some time in the app simultaneously. So like maybe you can use that to create an experience in which you can get people from Japan to meet people from Paris, for example, and maybe you can maybe by doing that you can get them to learn. You can get the French people to learn how to speak Japanese, and the Japanese people to learn how to speak English. And so I was like, maybe we should just create a simple social experiment on which people would log in and just talk with people around the world. So we did that, and it's not completely a failed experiment, because I know that sometimes we actually have users that log in at the same time that are from different countries and that start talking together. But the thing is that we have so many different content in the app that even when we have 50 or 60 different people connected at the same time, we are mainly using like the Rome experience or the Acropolis experience, or we're watching videos in the TV room. So it's kind of tough to have enough people log in at the same time in one specific experience inside the app to make it a great social experience. But at some point I think that we will make it happen on different, using a different system. But yeah, regarding language learning, I definitely believe that the immersion that you have in virtual reality and the social experience that you can have in VR, I definitely think that at some point they will be useful to learn a new language.
Definitely. When you were describing the avatar, earlier we were describing the teacher experience. Is that avatar that you mentioned being animated? Is it is it sort of an automated process, or is it actually recording the head movements or
Oh,
hand
we are
movements?
recording. Yeah, we are recording at the same time as the voiceover of the teacher is occurring, so that it's, if the teacher is talking about, like, I don't know, three specific elements, we can actually show the elements in the slides, so that we can, like, make the immersion even stronger. So it's really important to make it recorded, so that it can actually, like, follow the courses in live. And the users won't feel like it's something just pre-recorded that doesn't fit what the teacher is saying. So we record every course that we published. We record the animation of every course that we published on the classroom
Gotcha.
experience.
And then how do the avatars move? Are they true to life, or are they kind of pre-built movements?
Yeah, no, so they are like, so we animate four things. We animate the head movement, the hands movement, and the lips. So but this is the only thing that basically the avatar is composed of an head with some hair, hands. It doesn't have any arms, so the hands can move anywhere, and you don't see a disconnection between the arms and the hand. This is something really important, and it doesn't have any leg. So it's kind of like an half avatar, but it's enough to make it seem like you're actually watching someone giving a presentation. And still, you cannot use, like, super realistic content, because it runs on the Gear VR, and you want to optimize every 3D models that you're using.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so for now it's just a customizable avatar that we can change if the teacher has some gray hair or blonde hair. But it's a really simple concept for now.
Gotcha. Man, that's really cool. Are you guys exploring other topics or subjects right now, or what's the long-term path for you?
Yeah, so right now we are working on a new experience that will get you inside a human brain, so that you can learn how the human brain is working, and how each part of the brain is doing something different. So I think that this is going to be a really, really good experience. And then we're also working on signing new partnership with some YouTube channels to get more 2D content on the app. And then there is also an experience that we are working on, but this is something really, kind of different than what we did. Is an experience to learn about Auschwitz, the concentration camp. So we worked with a company to recreate some 3D models of the camp, and we want the user to be able to understand how hard it was and horrible it was to be in this camp at this precise period. But at the same time, you don't want to make it a terrific experience for the users. You just want them to understand but not feel the pain, I would say. So this is something that would take us more time to build, because there is, like, an emotional aspect that we don't have when we created the Rome experience or the Acropolis experience. And so we are going to take all the time that we need to make it a really high quality experience. But yeah, this is also something that we're working on.
That's really intense and fascinating. In the show we had with CoSpaces, we were talking specifically about concentration camps and the intensity of that sort of potential with VR, and where these limitations or these sort of ethical, moral, psychological boundaries are. I think in some ways it's very important that people do understand, when we talk about these things never happening again, there's a reason. On the other hand, it needs to be age appropriate, and you really need to be mentally prepared for what you're going to see. So it sounds like you're taking the environmental approach to that. That's really, I have not heard of others doing that at this point. That's really interesting. Talk to me about classroom learning with this stuff. Have you had teachers using this in a live classroom scenario, or is this typically more home-based use?
Yeah, so that was a big question when we started working on Unimersiv. We thought about, should we focus on on making this content that would be used in the classroom, or should we focus on making this a content kind of the same kind of content that you can watch on National Geographic, for example, just like VR documentaries for anyone. And we decided to start by focusing just on the individuals, so an app that you can use when you're at home and you want to, you're interested in learning more about Rome. So the Unimersiv app is the perfect app to download because it can actually take you inside ancient Rome, So we started Unimersiv by focusing on an individual views. But we have more and more teachers that are contacting us because they want to use the app in their classroom. So some of them don't have the proper equipment. Some of them have the proper equipment, and they're asking for the authorization to display the app in their classroom. But so yeah, we have a teacher that is actually used the Unimersiv app and the anatomy experience, especially with the students, and they just loved it. He told me that they went wild when they used it for the first time. So yeah, I think that I mean the long-term view is definitely to at some point to get that in the classroom, because I mean this is the end goal. This is the perfect virtual reality, is the perfect thing to get kids interested in learning again. Like I wasn't a big fan of history when I was a kid, but now when you can actually like travel back to history and watch gladiator fight and at the same time learn about how the seating was divided inside the Colosseum, it's completely different. So at some point we will definitely work on getting the Unimersiv app to be available in as many classrooms as we can. But for the midterm and short term, I think it's good to keep on focusing on the individual users, so that we can understand what they want, what kind of interaction they're expecting in a VR educational experiences. But yeah, at some point, as I said, we'll definitely make it available in the classroom.
Outstanding. You mentioned that you had users all over the world. More specifically, I guess, how have they found this?
One of the first reasons is that when we launched Unimersiv on the Oculus store for the Samsung Gear VR, there were more than 1 million people that were using the Gear VR every month, and there were only 400 apps that had been accepted by Oculus to be published on the store. So you have 1 million people that are using the Samsung Gear VR every month, searching for new content, and there is only 400 pieces of content that they can actually download. So you have an organic traffic that is crazy compared to what you can get if you publish an app on the Apple Store, on the Apple App Store, for example. So the fact that there is not that many content available in VR yet is really great for us as developers to get people to get access to your content without having to spend money or too much money on marketing or go like sponsoring events or things like that. So the one of the main source of traffic for the Unimersiv app is really the organic traffic that we get from the Oculus store. And then we are lucky to have a website that has been really well optimized for search engine optimization. So we get a lot of traffic for like VR education apps or virtual reality educational content. So this is a way also for our users to find us. And then one thing that is also really important is that people like the kind of content that we build. So when we share on social media that we just created an experience that can let you travel in ancient Rome to explore the Roman Colosseum, this is the kind of thing that people share, and people like to see this kind of content being made available on the virtual reality headsets. So I would say that social and organic traffic from the Oculus store is definitely the main way we are using to generate traffic.
Got it. Do you typically see that on Twitter, or what's the most effective social media channel?
Yeah, I'd say Reddit and Twitter.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, Reddit is really, you have like groups focused on virtual reality or even on the Samsung Gear VR that are being joined by thousands of users. And so this is a great way to, to just to talk to them and get their feedback if they tried the app or just announce some new kind of content. Twitter is really great too, and Facebook can be really useful with the groups. You have also groups focused on virtual reality or on the Samsung Gear VR especially. So these groups are perfect to also talk about your app and get users to try it and send their feedback and stuff.
Outstanding. Boy, that makes great sense. Reddit has actually been really supportive of the podcast. You're right about
Yeah,
it just being a very active community for
yeah.
virtual reality generally, and then each one of the devices.
Yeah, and Reddit was also a big. I mean, I wouldn't say a big reason, but they supported the Oculus for years before it went mainstream. They had a community, and I joined this community like when I received the DK2. But for years before the Rift, the final version of the Rift being made available and commercialized, you had like thousands of users that were talking about VR apps and giving feedback to VR developers about how we could improve our content, and that was really useful. And I'm convinced that this is also one of the big reasons for this that explain the success of the virtual reality headsets.
Mm-hmm. What do you know? What the average age of your users is by chance?
So we don't know. No, we don't know that.
It's always a tricky one. I'm putting
Yeah.
together kind of a VR Learning 101 ebook right now, which I'll talk more about in another show. But
Yeah, definitely.
ages and subject matter really. You can go down deep holes with those two issues alone. The sorts of things that an eighth grader would even find interesting, let alone relevant, and how we communicate to them is just going to be different than a college student or somebody who's at home and more self-directed learning and that kind of stuff. So it'll be fascinating to see how the whole industry evolves in each one of those directions.
Yeah, definitely.
How about conferences? Are there events that you make it a point to attend or participate in?
Yeah, so when I was in with the Boost VC incubator in California, I went to a lot of events. So it was still the early days of virtual reality. So it was always really interesting to see some kind of new content were available, or sometimes even new hardware that were available. So back then I went to a lot of conferences to meet people and talk about virtual reality. And right now, so since when I came back to Paris, there wasn't that many events that you could find, that you could get access to inside in the Silicon Valley. But still, there are some events in Paris, some meetups, and there is a big event in February that is taking place. So it's always good to go to those kind of conferences to meet people and talk with some users of some potential partners. But I don't do all of the events that I know will occur. So I think that it can be tricky, as a startup to want to be like in every event and to go to every conferences that is taking place, because at the end of the day, the goal for Unimersiv is just to publish some educational content, as much educational content and quality content to our users. So if you spend time going to too much conferences and too much events, you might lose track of the real goal of the business, which is to actually create content and not just talk at some events or sponsor some conferences.
Uh-huh. Yeah, it's funny. I've seen this phenomenon in the social media marketing world for a long, long time, where people spend so much time just talking about what it is that they never get around to actually doing
Exactly,
it.
yeah. Exactly.
How about the industry on the whole? Kind of final question here. What do you think the whole industry needs more of in order to continue the momentum that we're seeing in VR education right now?
Yeah, one thing that doesn't need and that I think is kind of happening is a war between the different headsets. I don't even know why this is happening. I think that, and you can also especially see that with the Rift and the Vive. And I think they're just both great. And you have some people that will prefer the Vive for the reason, some people will prefer the Rift for the reason, but you cannot see like people like arguing with each other over that, and it put developers sometime in a complicated situation, especially when they are, for example, receiving money from Oculus, for example, that is investing in some of the big games that are being made. So one thing that it doesn't need is a war between the different headsets users. Mm-hmm. But one thing that it needs, I'd say, of course, more content, but I mean, you don't want to be in a situation where you have like thousands of apps available with that are not being like really great experience. You want to have really good content available. So I think that what Oculus has been doing, which is investing, they invested a lot of money in some companies so that they can like finish their game or just make it better. And I think that this is what the industry needs. It needs like investors and companies actually betting on some VR content to create pieces of content that you don't forget, and the kind of game or experiences that you can demo to your friends, and they're going to be like, oh my god, I want to buy this headset. So what the industry needs is just I think that it just needs to keep on what it has been doing for a few months, which is like working on really high quality experiences, and keep on focusing on mobile and PC powered headset, because I think that both are really complementary. And of course, the experience that you get on the Gear VR is not as crazy as what you can get with the Rift and the Touch, for example, but it's still a very good experience. So I think that the industry needs to keep on focusing on the mobile VR headsets and on the high quality content that you can publish on the PC powered headsets.
Cheers to that. Baptiste, thank you for your time and your insight today. You are so far ahead of the masses on this technology, and we're glad that you're in the space and doing what you're doing.
Thank you, Pinky. It was really a pleasure to talk with you.
Likewise. Enjoy the rest of your evening, sir.
Thank you. You too.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
New School VR is graciously supported by and recorded live at Concordia University in beautiful Portland, Oregon. For over 100 years, Concordia has been preparing teachers and learning professionals for life and for a living. For more information, visit cu-portland.edu. And by ... an experiential design and technology studio specializing in custom virtual reality and experiential marketing activations that incite wonder and inspire action. See more at ... .io. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe on iTunes or through your favorite podcast delivery app. Visit us online at newschoolvr.com, and thanks for listening. I'm your host, Pinky Gonzalez, and this is New School VR.
This VR podcast is dope.